Hello, thank you for joining us on Platform. I'm Ruth Aguela. Increasing climate variability in Nigeria continues to cause more intensity as communities are threatened and adversely affected by climate change. From the rise in sea levels, which increases vulnerability to flooding, to drought, desertification, which is prominent in the northern part of the country, flash floods, landslides, and gully erosion. According to the United Nations, Nigeria has the highest rate of deforestation in the world, losing 3.7% of its forests every year. On the other hand, land degradation continues to bite hard, especially in the northern part of the country, which puts the country on a trajectory towards upscaling climate adaptation and response mechanisms. However, there's been comprehensive adaptation projects in Nigeria. One of it is the Agroclimate Resilience and Semi-Arid Landscapes, that is ACRESL, a World Bank financed project designed to tackle the pressing issues of land degradation and climate change in 19 northern states and the Federal Capital Territory. Also, to increase the implementation of sustainable landscape management practices in targeted watersheds in the northern region and strengthen the nation's long-term climate action plan for integrated climate resilient landscape management across communities. Now, the project comprises of 4 components and is scheduled to run for 6 years, ending in 2028. But the big question is, how has the project spanned on risk reduction, response to climate variability, improving sustainable land and water management practices in the targeted region? Our focus on Platform is enhancing climate resilience and land management. And our guest is the National Project Coordinator for the Agroclimatic and Semi-Arid Landscapes, that is ACRESL, Mr. Abdulhamid Umar. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Umar.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Before we bring in our panelists, we want you to know much better who Mr. Abdulhamid Umar is. We'll read out his profile to you now. He has been involved in several multilateral financial funding support projects in the country, from the UNHCR UN Women Enrollment Project, South Korea Intervention on Enrollment Support Team, where he served as chairman. He has also actively participated in the project identification, preparation, and implementation stages of the World Bank funded $433 million Nigeria ID4D project. He served as director and head of operations department that was at the National Identity Management Commission, where he made significant impact by expanding the digital ID enrollment figures from 7.2 million in 2017 to more than 97 million records under his watch in 2023. Abdulhamid has served in different capacities, coupled with his love for green fields, the promotion of nature, and associated ecosystems. He has both Philip Consulting and KPMG Management and Leadership tutelages with some project management certification. We'll leave the profile there. Well done. Once again, welcome to Platform.
Thank you very much, Ruth.
All right, so our panelist is our environment correspondent here in NTA, Charles Alpha.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Alpha, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Ruth, for being here.
All right, Charles. Okay, so Mr. Umar, looking at land degradation, this is a very serious issue.
It really is.
We're looking at, enhancing climate resilience and land management. Land management has been a lingering issue for Nigeria. And based on what we've read out, the project, that's the ACRESL project, is in line with the president, the federal government's vision of, restoring 1 million degraded land by 2030. 2030 is just around the corner. I know the project is spanning, a period of 6 years from 2023, if I'm correct?
Yeah, very.
Okay, great. But would you tell us now, the task ahead? It's been 1 year into the project, or more than a year now into the project. So tell us, how tasking has it been for you as the national coordinator.
Thank you very much, Ruth, and viewers. Like the introduction was presented, the Agroclimatic Resilience in Semi-Arid Landscapes project of the Federal Government of Nigeria is largely driven by the Ministries of Environment, Ministry of Agriculture, and Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation. This project, at the federal level, the borrower is the Federal Government of Nigeria, and I'm happy to tell our viewers that this project has presence in 19 northern states, like you rightly said, and the FCT. In other words, that means at the federal and the state level. Now, how has this project fared so far? Your brilliant question. For us at ACRISAL, which you rightly presented, the project started, actually the contract was the loan agreement with the World Bank, wherein $700 million is the investment from the World Bank. The agreement was signed in the year 2022. But the project kick-started officially, what you call disbursement, started in 2023. From 2023 to date, what one can say is that the project has actually found traction. Traction in the sense that all the 19 states have already prepared the necessary take-off facilities and engagement that requires the funding to be disbursed. I'm happy to announce that it requires counterpart funding from the state, and all the 19 states and FCT provided the counterpart funding to be able to access the $700 million in bucket. And I'm also happy to say all the states have assessed the facilities from the figure of $2 billion to up to 15 to 14, depending on the staging and investment readiness of each of the states. So to answer the question, how far has the project actually delivered? For us, as a measuring stick from the federal level, we would say that the project is on track. Presence is available in all the 19 states, and all the states are delivering up to expectation. So in a one-year review process, 1.5 years process, one can say the project is doing well.
Okay, considering what we're seeing happening across the country, the impact of climate change, we'll delve into all the issues. Charles, I'm sure you want to pick up.
Yeah, so let's just get to specifics. You know, land degradation, desertification, and all of that. Erosion, just like she mentioned, is ripping communities apart. It is actually creating a kind of devastation around in the most states of Nigeria. And farmlands, communities and livelihoods have been also ripped apart. And I'd like to ask, what sort of interventions is the federal government agricultural project undertaking to restore hope, you know, to these people living in these communities that are so far been affected?
Yes, that's a brilliant question. I want to, on behalf of the project ACRISAL, extend our sympathies to states that have recently been flooded, like Borno, Katsina, Jigawa. I'm mentioning this state specifically because the Minister of Environment and the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security invited ACRISAL as part of the federal government delegation that visited Borno. We saw it for ourselves, and it's quite alarming, and one can say some of the reasons for those, what one can say, natural calamity are largely not only preventable, but we could do better going forward. And ACRISAL as a project has in its deliverables efforts to address flooding and gully erosion, like you rightly mentioned. And that's why in Katsina, the project has invested well over $14 million as we speak. I'm happy to announce that due to that intervention, Katsina State Katsina as a state capital, did not witness those massive flooding that used to happen before our intervention. ACRISAL has actually identified the need to intervene, being a federal government project. In Katsina State, we have addressed that. Now, in Borno, we actually were concluding the approval and necessary paperwork to engage in massive gully erosion control before this flooding came in. So to answer your question, all the states that are severely hit by erosion and issues surrounding flooding, ACRICEL, because we are present in all the 19 states, that is area of focus here. ACRICEL actually requested and insisted that governments of this state, because they are participating, should inject in the work plan the need for ACRICEL as an intervention funding from the World Bank. Truthfully, records have it that in Jigawa, where we invested in some of our activities, flooding wiped them away. We are liaising with the governors of the state to increase and speedily provide that circle and address these issues permanently. And you mentioned the point of what are we doing in addressing issues of degraded landscape. Truthfully, like the anchor Ruth mentioned, the project development objective is to see how we can address degraded landscape around the northern region, which is more severely hit by issues of human activities and natural calamities, which we call climate change necessitated. So a target of 1 million hectares of degraded landscape is to be arrested by this intervention. And Nigeria as a government actually promised to deliver on addressing 4 million degraded landscapes by the year 2030. ACRICEL as a project is charged to deliver 1 million, and we are working to ensure those degraded landscapes are not only recovered, but become beneficial and useful for our teeming populace in the
Mr. Umar, just to follow up to what Charles asked.
Yes, please.
Borno is part of the 19 states,
yes,
if I'm
please,
correct. Now, part of the target, or rather mandate for the project, is to increase implementation plan, long-term sustainability plan, when we're talking land management. What kind of intervention? Let's say, okay, you talked about the intervention that started in Borno that was wiped off. What long-term plan is there? Because if you recall, this flooding that happened in Borno State happened 30 years ago. And in the same September, you know, the same time, the same numbers we're seeing, the figures of people displaced. You know, it's quite unfortunate. So what readily or short-term intervention plan? I know the project targets long-term sustainability plan, but is there a short-term plan as part of intervention measures for, you know, communities that have been ravaged?
This is a brilliant question. Brilliant because I was part of the federal government delegation that visited Borno, and truthfully, Governor Zulum, one of the most proactive governors, looked straight on my face and said, ACRICEL, you've been helping us and we need you to enhance and continue to provide those succor. And so what should be the immediate intervention? As I'm speaking to you, we're part of the team that the federal government, under the leadership of the Minister of Environment, dispatched to Borno to provide succor in areas of addressing cholera and water pollution activities. So as I speak to you, we have presence in Borno. Our colleagues here have been mobilized to participate in the remedial effort of rehabilitating and cleaning up the city center for livelihood to continue. ACRICEL as a project has just spent 1.5 years. So what do we need to do? We are in serious discussion with the governor to see how ACRICEL can be deployed to assist in ensuring that a sustainable and long-term solution is provided. We've got the expertise here and from the World Bank that they are always willing to support us. Indeed, this project is a technology-driven project that the World Bank makes available over 200 qualified people all over the world to support us in delivering on technology. So to answer the question, we are quickly working on building what is called strategic catchment management plan. The strategic catchment management plan will now design, like the effort has gone, we just came back from Kano, the effort will now define what are those interventions that the government at the state level needs to do, the federal level needs to do, individuals that live within this territory that flood is very prone to will do to themselves, and federal government, a responsible federal might, can also do. So this strategic catchment management plan will help in providing those succor, in my opinion.
Okay, Charles.
Okay, so in follow-up to that, looking at Borno State and all the devastation we've seen, one thing I do know from my experience and the work in the environment, we do know that tree planting is one of the readily made solutions to mitigate environmental problems that we have now, such as what you're seeing in Borno State and other parts of the country. And I want to ask, in terms of afforestation and addressing gully erosion and all of that, what should we be expecting, to forestall further future devastations such as we see in Borno State?
Mr. Charles, that's a brilliant question. And I'm actually not only excited that NTA has this readily available statistics about how poorly we're doing as far as issues surrounding forestation and planting of trees that is of concern to us. Indeed, the statistics is very scary. Nigeria rates one of the lowest as far as issues surrounding afforestation is concerned. Deforestation is happening on a daily basis. You don't want to be confronted with the statistics of the trees that are being felled every day, every minute. Is it the charcoal business that has so devastated our forests? So we as Nigerians must consider to that. AgriCell as a project also aims severely and tactically to address the issues surrounding degraded landscapes by providing essentially grass cover, if you like, agricultural cover to provide stability for the degraded land. But primarily, tree planting is a sine qua non to addressing challenges of degraded landscape. And that is why all the states are encouraged, AgriCell states, participating states, are encouraged to engage in massive tree planting. Tree planting alone is not the solution to addressing degraded landscape, but primarily tree planting has been seen to be one of the veritable methodologies to be adopted in addressing degraded landscape. In the past 1 year and 2 months or so, AgriCell has invested in planting over 1.7 million trees running all over the 19 northern states and FCT. And this effort is still ongoing. We do not want to rely or drop statistics. What we want is, at the end of this project, we're able to seriously intervene to the extent that if it's the area of tree planting, which I'm happy to say all the states are actually embracing, we will now be able to see that we have covered adequate landscape to be able to provide solutions to issues of flooding and other gully erosion. So tree planting is one of the deliverables.
And recently, if I must commend the project, women I see are being carried along because Women Association of Farmers in Bauchi State were recently presented with 100 different economic species, to promote that tree planting, which is quite commendable because women are being carried along. But I want to get the synergy you're getting from states. Are they keen into this project? You talked about counter funding, which they are supposed to provide, but they must show commitment from their end if this project must be sustainable.
Yeah. Thank you for the commendation about the fact that the project has actually looked on the women's side. I'm happy to share with our viewers that tactically, the deliverables that I must deliver as a national project coordinator for AgriCell is that 40% of the beneficiaries of this project must be women. So, and I'm happy to say we have actually surpassed that. We have attained 40, or so far, based on the deliverables of the project, wherein disbursement has reached 39%. We're doing 49% now women. So the case of Bauchi that you mentioned is pervasive in all the states. We insist
so that will be replicated?
It's replicated in all the 19 states. It's a requirement in whatever we're doing. So, truthfully, are the governors participating? The answer is yes. Are they excited? Oh, I have met with over 3/4 of the governors in all the 19 participating in FCT, including the Minister of State FCT. In fact, states like Taraba, when we visited Taraba, I was so delighted that the awareness of AgriCell is high. And this is occasioned by the fact that the governors of these states see in AgriCell a very, very purposeful project that the government of the states can lash on, right on, to deliver on their political promises in the area of natural resource, addressing challenges of natural resources, water and agriculture. And to say whether the states are buying it, I am happy to say all the 19 states and the FCT are not only involved, but the structural running, the governors are interested in what we're doing, and they are really participating. These facts became obvious when we went on mission around the states. Kwara State Governor, who will insist the best that has happened to Kwara, being the chairman of Governors Forum, is Akrisel. I'm happy to say Akrisel is not only well situated in 19 northern states, but well accepted and embraced.
I know that, when devastation happened, women and girls, children,
they bear the brunt.
They get the brunt, most times. And in Nasarawa State, I think that was the pioneer initiative where the CRF was disbursed, the Community Revolving Fund was also distributed to women in that particular community and some other northern states. And I like to find out, some months have gone down the line, and I need to know, we need to know, how is this fund, being utilized by these women and some persons that have been empowered, in Nasarawa and other parts of the country, and what kind of mechanism has Akrisel put in place to ensure that the money given is expended on the reason why they were disbursed?
As the national project coordinator for this project, that's one activity of the World Bank that excites me. Why? Because I'm a rural person. I grew up from a deprived background. And the essence of that intervention, viewers, is essentially that 10% of the 700 million be invested in Community Revolving Fund, it's called, the CRF. And 70%, 10% is $70 million US. $70 million US is to be made available to households and communities at the rural level. And these households must have women in it. Indeed, I'm happy to say the Akrisel team had to visit the Minister of Women Affairs to ensure and insist that she also participates in helping us out with clusters of women that would have access to this funding. The Nasarawa case that you said, we insisted that the management structure for the beneficiaries of this fund have women as leaders and women as officials. Now, has this fund been disbursed? I'm happy to say it's been too slow for the liking of the World Bank, the funder, but it's because of the stringent conditionalities entailed for people to access the funding. That's why this exercise just started some three months ago with Jigawa. I'm happy to report that about 1.8 billion US has been disbursed to households and communities at the community level. Are they happy? I'm happy to report that states like Benue, in 3 months, they've actually started returning the monies. Like the money, like the definition of revolving, this funding is not, I call it not a loan, but the bank insisted it's a loan. It's not a loan because...
And it's not a grant.
It's not a grant,
okay.
per se. So, but to them it's a loan because it also ties to the 700 million. I call it not a loan because the monies are not to be taken from these communities immediately. The monies from the definition, community revolving, it's supposed to revolve. Suppose Ruth takes it today, does business and makes interest, she returns it to a Charles, another family in the community that are registered under cooperatives for ease of transparency and monitoring. So it revolves around the community. She could ask for more of that funding. It's not for the money to be paid back immediately like the banking system in Nigeria where they call. It's supposed to turn around the community so you build rich and viable households in communities. So it's basically called Community Revolving Fund. Is it succeeding? The measurements we have now in the 3 months we have done so far has been very, very encouraging. Have we actually embedded a smart way of recovery? The answer is yes. The conditionalities are about 12. I don't want to take viewers' time, but India is at the selection of the management committee to manage this fund. It's not only transparently done, it's by election. And you must be resident of that community, and the communities must identify you there. And we insisted that religious leaders and people of high moral integrity like traditional are also part of those checks and balances, that the funding would necessarily go to cooperatives, not individuals. The cooperative stands as brief and guarantors that will identify the individual recipients. So for us, Community Revolving Fund is a story of success for now. And I'm happy to say it has happened in Uganda, and it has succeeded. But it's too soon to completely pass judgment because we just have we're running it for about 3-4 months now.
Okay.
More time should be given, but I'm excited about the excitement that people have embraced.
Is there interest paid on this?
For me, it's not only inconsequential, but the figures that are placed on it are there to support the management team, so that the management team doesn't look at the capital. For instance, in each of these communities that have received funding, the federal government of Nigeria, in collaboration with the receiving states, facilitated $25,000 for each of the communities that have received this. And as we speak, about 80 communities have received this funding, and the numbers are counting. I just checked before I came here. I didn't know I was going to be asked this question, and I realized communities are applying and meeting the conditionalities. That's why I'm happy to say about $1.750 million has been disbursed. So the requirements are clearly spelled out, and people are obliging.
Okay, why quite an innovative, integrated approach to build resilience, among communities. But are they being trained, on environmental management, talking about land degradation, soil and water conservation, sustainable farming, and all of that? Are they being trained? Because this is also part of measures that could be adopted to build their resilience.
Ruth, you said it all. I think we would make effort to recruit you into AgriSA. Why? Because you actually understand the philosophy.
I love my job here.
Yeah, you brilliantly understand the philosophy behind the investment in AgriSA. It's essentially to build community resilience and sustainability at the community and household levels. And is it helping out? The answer is yes.
Are they being trained?
Good. Excellent question. Yes, they are trained. The individual community business agents that are selected are trained. The individuals that are assessed for, they are meant to produce business plans, and they are trained to design these business plans because of their level of education. The committees will assess before they assess the funding. And your question that is so exciting to me is that it is the aim at building community resilience at the community level and household levels. Why? Because largely this funding is aimed to be invested and used for agricultural value chain. Okay. In other words, at the process, production, and sales level, these are the beneficiaries of this individual. It's not for the motor mechanic or, if you like, other trade. It's to provide resilience, and this resilience, like we know, is to boost food productivity. And we do know the mainstay of our people in northern Nigeria is agriculture. So it's an effort by the federal government of Nigeria, funded by AgriSA, World Bank intervention, to provide that resilience and address challenges of climate change that you are encouraged. Once the landscapes are restored, you don't leave them to fallow because they will go back. So you are encouraged and trained to provide agricultural activities on those lands that have recovered. Okay. That's why we have relationship with Food and Agricultural Organization to help us in the land restoration and agricultural practices for our people.
We have to pause with the conversation. We have to take a break. We'll be back. Please stay tuned.
What are we doing as a nation to first of all settle our teeming populace, especially the
NTA's political package with a third eye on the nation's political scene. I am Fisa Ogunfuyi. Welcome.
You have to be very careful giving space to people who are obviously sponsored to further the agenda of some other groups.
There's a lot of questions. A lot of questions in a closed door sessions. Some of these issues, some of the problems bedeviling of their...
In fact, between June 1st and July 17, 19-point-something billion has left the coffers of the NDDC.
I can say my constituency, they need everything because we don't have anything.
A method for digital literacy is a bot that you can use, you can interact to learn more about digital literacy.
Hello, it's our pleasure to have you join us on platform. I'm Ruth Aguwele.
What is the yardstick for measuring everybody's moral integrity? It's critical at this point in time.
How daunting has that been for the Institute in getting them abreast with all the legislative procedures?
The fact remains that one training workshop is not enough.
Glad to know you're there. The conversation is enhancing climate resilience and land management. Mr. Umar, you just rounded your thoughts on how communities are being trained, to help them build the resilience. And I'm sure Charles had a follow-up to that.
Yes, so, okay. Well, I'm happy you actually started talking about agriculture, because it's one of those areas that I believe AgriSal is doing so much to, restore hope to farmers especially. Now, in March this year, sometime around March, I know the federal government's program, AgriSal project, and in partnership with international organizations like the FAO you mentioned, launched the 50 by 2030, smart agriculture initiative. And I'd like to know, how do you think this will help improve our food, crisis security that we're talking about? In talking about community resilience, new farm implements and all of that, you think this can help, farmers, especially smallholder farmers, move away from just subsistence agriculture to, large-scale production in such a way that we have food sufficiency in our country?
The initiative of 50 by 2030 is an interagency initiative that is supposed to provide interventions in Africa, where we are geographically located, Latin America, Asia, and a few continents that you say are not in the first world. And what does it seek to deliver? Is to partner with particularly agencies that are data-driven. Like in Nigeria, the Bureau for Statistics, National Bureau for Statistics, in order to be able to build statistical evidences on agriculture that will assist in planning and improve on food productivity. So without those data, you will just be walking and turning in the dark. So for us, this relationship has the World Bank support, IFAD support, FAO support, and so the Ministry of Agriculture sees that as a veritable platform for AgriSal to also participate. So we, as a project, we are also part of the delivery of the promises and initiative that the 50 by 2030. 50 is actually 50 countries located in those geographical regions I mentioned. Africa, there are countries in Africa. It's not every country in Africa that is a benefit, but Nigeria happens to be one of those countries where this initiative is being driven. So I'm happy to say the purpose essentially is to see to it that these statistical evidences will help in providing sustainability and durability of activities of farmers where statistics is of reference point. I want to consider that what is usually missing now is that we don't even have empirical correct data of what we're doing as far as land ownership is concerned, land statistics, soil tests, land ownership. This effort will now capture all of that for proper planning that will assist us in food security, in identifying where these farmers are and what kind of intervention should reach out to them. The effort here is that AgriSal will join hands, because AgriSal is already on ground, and also with National Bureau for Statistics, actually the drivers of the statistical fact, and we've met. And Bureau of Statistics will have an MOU as a project with MBS. Okay. And the Ministry of Agriculture is delighted in ensuring that initiative of 50 countries by 2030 that these statistical evidences are provided to enhance food security and durability.
And one other strategy I know the Ministry of Agriculture is pushing for is promoting dry season farming, which is part of the Akrazal project. How would you say, what kind of intervention rather is Akrazal going to be providing, especially for farmers?
This is a brilliant question once again. I like the NTA. NTA are always a leader. Your questions are apt. Apt in the sense that Akrazal as a project has a budgetary allocation of $54.2 million from the global package of 700. And that is essentially to focus on dryland agriculture that you mentioned, called farmer-led irrigation development effort. In other words, the investment is to see to it that there is farming activity round the year, not that some years you break down. So the Ministry of Agriculture and Akrazal is driving that to succession. We have attended a series of meetings, and I'm happy to say the IITA has been, we are closing on that relationship to ensure IITA drives that, because IITA is known as International Institute for African Agriculture. They are known for delivering on large-scale farming activities, which is of concern to you here that you mentioned, to the extent that that dry land aspect and dry season farming is actualized towards that. And they promise that they will assist in providing coverage and activities in 410,000 hectares of land for us. So how are we driving it? It's partnership with IITA, Food and Agriculture Organization. And it's our hope, based on the statistical evidences we have now and the review that we have from states that are desirous of participating massively in dry land farming, we will be able to be of help and will intervene. That plus or minus on or before the next dry season, we should be there with them. And this will be largely anchored on renewable energy. So in other words, the irrigation equipment that this project would push for will be non-fossil fuel. It will essentially be renewable energy equipment, because ours is to see to it that will reduce the gas emission and address challenges of climate change, because this investment is necessitated by the challenges of climate change. In other words, the poverty and environmental challenges inherent in the north necessitated the direct need for this intervention.
Okay.
So that's what we aim to deliver.
Just before Charles comes in, out of curiosity, this fund's readily available, talking about the World Bank Fund for Akrazal. Do these states come to get it, or does Akrazal go to them to provide these funds?
Okay, yes, brilliant question. The understanding of the SLA signed is that these funds are in a bucket. You will only access the fund when you have bankable propositions that addresses issues surrounding climate change, which is the subject matter of discussion.
Okay.
So it's not for you to take the funds and go and marry or go and start building roads. It's essentially take the funds and prove to the World Bank through a work plan that will undergo series of interrogation at the state level, where committees that have commissioners of these three ministries scrutinizes it, goes to the governor, then the project coordinator at the state escalates it to us at the federal, we review it and ensure it's in line with the project development objective of this loan.
Okay.
Then we take it to the World Bank, they look at it and ensure that due diligence is given. Then those activities mentioned will now be scrutinized. Then governors will have what is called no objection after a proposition from the bank. Then they can assess the funding. This funding is available, but you cannot just wake up and assess it until you have bankable and investable proposition, because these monies are loan facilities. Okay. So the federal government of Nigeria insists they must be expended in line with delivering demands and shortcomings, challenges necessitated by climate change, that is focused on activities of the Ministry of Environment, Water Resources and Agriculture.
Okay.
All right, you talked about irrigation, and I remembered that in Kowa Reservoir. You know, you talked about agriculture and all of that, all year round agriculture, and my mind went quickly to the Nguru wetlands. And so I I am prompt to ask, with the plan to do all year, agriculture practice and all of that, is the federal government tapping into the resources that abound in Nguru wetlands, and is the federal government taking advantage of all the resources that abound in the Dadinkowa Reservoir to be able to do this all year round irrigation and farming that will help support our food system?
Especially when it's spread to other parts, not just those designated states.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, I'll speak about other parts. But let me thank you again for this brilliant question. The Nguru wetland is very, very close to the hearts of the Federal Minister of Environment, Honorable Balarabe Abbas. He called me as National Project Coordinator to insist that whatever AgriSec could do must ensure we excite him about addressing challenges surrounding the Nguru wetland. Similarly, addressing issues of the Dadinkowa reservoir that is located in Gombe, because perhaps of his knowledge of the potentials therein. Then a few weeks after, he still invited the National Project Coordinator, my good self, to another meeting, and said he was with Mr. President Ahmed Tinubu, and the President also re-echoed the need for the Ministry of Environment to quickly see to it that the country benefits from the viability and potentials in the wetland. So your question is apt. Now, so what are we doing in AgriSec? What we're doing in AgriSec is to holistically address the 6 riparian states that the wetland services of Plateau, Bauchi, Jigawa, Borno, Yobe, Kano. Those are the 6 riparian states that the wetland actually services now. That, from what I saw, with all sense of responsibility, if we harness our resources well, that wetland should be able to feed this country. And I stand to be corrected. I have traveled to Jigawa. You need to go there and see the viability. You need to go to Yobe. That wetland requires heavy investment. It has potential to deliver our requirement of rice. There's no reason for Nigeria to actually import rice if you go to that wetland. So AgriSec has gone there. We've started some investment, but to have sustainability that is worrisome to root, where is the sustainability and resilience? We now quickly ensure, and we're ensuring that strategic catchment management plan is designed so that that plan will be able to clearly show the viability of each of the states, comparative advantage of each of the states, and where investment by all levels and layers of government, indeed by international communities. What we found out in AgriSec is that there has been a series of disjointed investment in this wetland, but they are not coherent, they are not properly organized. So the organization guided by the World Bank is that we must have a strategic catchment management plan, then have a micro catchment management plan where planning of natural resources that are available, the land potentials that are necessarily available there, to know where they are for ease of investment. And I'm happy to tell you such investment that we have done so far is that AgriSec as a project has bought about 3, 4, 5 what you call swamp boogie. This swamp boogie clears these taffa grasses in that corridor. You need to go NTA. I think you were there. I think I saw a clip when I was overseas. Yeah. You will see that those people come and see the excitement, and that excitement is brought about by this focused investment by the federal government, supported by 19 northern states. You'll be cash on that and clear those toffa grass. This toffa grass has provided access for the livelihood of people around there and improve their mainstay of economy, which is farming and fish farming and agricultural activities around that area. So what are we saying here? What we're saying here is that AgriSec as a project identifies the need to have that plan marshaled out. And we are there. We're almost there. We were in Kano for about 2 weeks to take in from bottom top, from the communities that live in this environment, to tell us what exactly they want this project to do. And that report is being collated. Okay. And we will produce a foolproof action plan to resolve that matter. On Dadinkowa, I must say, that is a sleeping opportunity in Gombe. opportunity for anyone that goes there. Hippopotamus are almost going on extinct. You need to go there, they are reproducing themselves. For me, that is an area that the Ministry of Tourism should be able to go there at the federal level and find how to enhance the viability of that place for tourists to visit that environment and monies we made.
That's right.
Anyone that goes there will see that the land is not only fertile. AgriSal has been able to build partnership and relationship between these hippos and the communities that live around there. Before AgriSal went there, we had stories and histories of hippopotamus fighting with the communities, killing the communities. But our intervention has not only led to the hippos staying within their lane, their territory, but the farmers could also farm. We've been able to provide what the hippos will live on. And do you know the exciting about hippos are? The existence of hippos in some of these rivers also assists in multiplication of fishes, we are told. I found it so interesting because I come from the riverine area. We always used to run away from hippos. But the existence of hippos in that area, I don't know what they do, but fishes we are told, multiply in number. So what that means is the livelihood of the people around that Nkowa can also be enhanced with these hippos. And I must commend the governor of Gombe State. He has so provided some level of safety and security for these hippos. I think what is needed now is injection of more funds. AgriSal as a project understands the need to provide support for biodiversity and animal conservation like what is happening in that area.
Okay, I could see your love for green fields, like what your profile said, because you've really done your homework. And it's good that AgriSal is pushing to ensure it. I know it's a gradual process because this is just like a year, the project kicked off. And based on what you're sharing with us, but we're looking at projection. But before you go into projection for the future, talking about sustainable plan, I would like to know what AgriSal has in store for waste management. That's another issue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Another brilliant question.
Maybe pollution, if you
Yeah, very briefly.
Yeah, another brilliant question. One of the deliverables for AgriSal is to ensure that wherever this investment takes place, we encourage waste management techniques. I'm happy to say the Ministry of Environment is not only keen in ensuring that is delivered at the ministerial level, but has encouraged AgriSal to ensure that is done. I'm happy to say that issues surrounding open defecation is a serious matter for the nation. And what we are doing as AgriSal is to enhance awareness and advocacy at the community level and state level, because you need to mobilize these individuals to understand that. And how are we doing that? We don't sit in the comfort of our offices in Abuja. We have engaged focal NGOs where community interest groups are also at the community level engaged to be able to see to it that waste of all forms are not only collated and collected in a centralized place. If you go to Gombe now, you'll be able to see those spots that AgriSal has invested in for waste management and waste disposal, for it to be properly enhanced and handled. We have seen where waste has been turned to wealth. So we're encouraging at the state level, because these projects are largely implemented at the state level and community level, to embrace the technology of not allowing this waste become harmful to us and pollution, like he said. It's really, really a serious matter, but AgriSal is investing heavily in addressing this challenge.
I don't know how you put this in a few seconds, the projection, what Nigerians should expect, you know, looking at ways of enhancing climate resilience.
Yes, Nigeria as a nation, we are delighted and excited in AgriSal that a few of us that were doubting these issues about climate change are now living witnesses. The flooding that is happening now, the irregular pattern of rainfall, the heat that is immeasurable for us who live in Abuja before the rain started, all those are signs to authenticate the fact that climate change is here. Our clarion call is that we must encourage advocacy and insist on stopping certain habits of tree falling, because existence of tree assists us. The carbon monoxide that is disseminated is needed for the oxygen for us to have good air and gases are held. So for us, climate change is here, but we must change our attitude and what we're doing. And for resilience, we must adapt different methodology that will assist us. And what AgriSal is encouraging is adaptability for sustainability.
Okay, I like that. Adaptability for sustainability. Thank you so much, Mr. Abdulhamid Omar. He's the National Project Coordinator for Agroclimatic Resilience in Semi-Arid Landscapes, that is AgriSal. Thank you so much for your contribution. We'll keep monitoring developments as they unfold. Keep up the good work. And Charles Alpha, our environment correspondent, thank you so much for your contribution on platform.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right. Okay, so enhancing climate resilience and, of course, land management. What you do to your environment matters a lot. Let us try to protect our environment by preserving it, because your action counts. And that's platform Ruth Aguwele.